In the first part of our Tantra series, we address Tantra's meaning and some misconceptions that people have about it. In the second, we touched on some history and introduced different schools of Tantra. In the third episode, we will explore how Tantra evolved over time and how it presents in society today. We spoke previously how, in the Vedas, the word Tantra means to loom, warp, or weave. In its most literal translation, Tan in Tantra stands for expansion or widening in a conscious or spiritual sense. Tra roughly translates to a tool or instrument. So, combined, Tantra as a word represents a tool that can be mentally stimulating and expanding our divine consciousness and awareness. With the array of techniques within Tantra meditation, someone could enjoy spiritual growth from meditating on the experience of sexual energy. In contrast, someone else may be triggered through mandalas and sacred geometry or in other techniques. When we think of Tantra, most of the time we may not really be thinking of what it actually represents. The majority of people, even in the spiritual community, do not truly understand its core meaning and techniques. Most people automatically think of the Kama Sutra or Tantra sex and its corresponding sexual positions. Ask someone about their understanding of Tantra and they tend to default to sex. So we now hear of tantric massage parlors and groups or couples who get together to experience a spiritual sexual awakening. Success in this area is the potential for lengthy and profound sexual proficiency. Abilities like multiple orgasms, prolonged sexual ecstasy are a few of the assurances given. So how did we get from an ancient, revered, and overarching spiritual process to sexual performance? We talked in an earlier series about confirmation bias. So are people preoccupied with their sexuality, so they use Tantra to make it fit with their ego-driven needs? Does it then allow them to have a moral excuse to explore their own sexual desires? Whatever Tantra might seem to be, it is only something we can directly assist ourselves in growing. This conscious growth includes changes such as overcoming suffering and transcending our cycles of rebirths. In both the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, it also involves removing ourselves from the experiences of the ego and stepping outside of the self. Tantra frees us from the limitations or delusions in life. Modern-day teachers like Osho have attempted to place a more contemporary understanding of Tantra. In his book, Tantric Transformation, When Love Meets Meditation, there is a detailed map of Tantra based on the inner man, inner woman, and the transformation of energy through sex, love, and meditation. The misunderstanding of Tantra's origin being innately related to the need for sex or using sex to awaken consciousness does not come from the ancient lineages or teachings. It was derived from the Western world by teachers such as Pierre Bernard. Bernard single-handedly misrepresented an entire way of living and being to hundreds of thousands of people in the West. Pierre Bernard was a classical yogi who studied under different tantric gurus in the late 1800s. During this time, he would display various spiritual feats. These included intense death-like meditations on the mother goddess Kali. It was during the time of Bernard that Neo-Tantra was invented. Known as the Great Om, Bernard played a crucial role in spreading the idea that sex was the key to reach a spiritually elevated state. After his guru died, Bernard was seen as the authority figure on it. He introduced energy and sexual healing as a mystical tool, but in a predatorial way. He would use private students for his own sexual gratification under the guise that Tantra required intimate sex with a teacher or partner to awaken spiritually. He would often quote the oldest sutras in Hindu philosophy. Eventually, there was a public outcry, but the damage was already done. Tantra was identified explicitly with the Kama Sutras and sex as a whole. The result is that the term American Tantra is now a registered trademark, marketed to sexually curious Westerners who have been influenced by traditional Judeo-Christian education. It has increased in popularity over the years. Modern Tantric Jargon comes from a variety of classical Hindu and Buddhist sources. Jungian and rich psychology are often mixed with the yogic concepts. Today, many contemporary practitioners have been criticized for abusing and exaggerating Tantra's indigenous tradition, mainly for sexual and commercial purposes.